The train hissed like a wounded snake as it pulled into the snowy station. Clara stepped off, clutching a small brown suitcase in one hand, her other hand tucked into her coat sleeve for warmth. The wind hit her hard, sharp, cold, and full of dust and snow. It cut straight through her like knives. She looked around. No one was waiting. She had come all the way from Ohio to marry a man named Cobb, a mail-order groom. He'd written sweet letters, promised land, and a quiet life. But now, standing on that wooden platform with her boots half frozen, she felt something was wrong. No Cobb, no one asking her name. Just silence and the sound of horses snorting nearby. Then she saw him. At first, she thought it was just a bundle of rags left behind. But then the bundle moved. A man lay beside the freight crates, half hidden by snow. His shirt was torn. Blood darkened the side of his body. One boot was missing, the other broken. He looked like he'd crawled straight out of a nightmare. Clara dropped her suitcase. People walked past him like he wasn't even there. No one stopped. No one even looked. She ran forward and knelt beside him. His face was pale, lips cracked. His chest rose and fell, but just barely. She turned to the station master, who was lighting a cigarette. What happened to him? She asked. The man didn't look up. Came off a freight car this morning. Bleeding. Half dead. Probably a drifter. Did anyone help? He laughed once, short and cold. We got our own problems, lady. Ain't got time for strangers. Clara looked down at the man. Snowflakes landed on his skin and didn't melt. His coat was torn, ribs showing through the rip. Blood had frozen against his side. She touched his neck. Still warm. Still alive. The sheriff came walking by then, chewing on a toothpick, coat flapping. Behind him. Leave him, he said, not even stopping. He ain't your problem. Clara looked up. I'm not leaving him. The sheriff squinted at her. You're the mail-order girl, right? Come to marry Cobb? No one came to meet me. Well, he said, shrugging, looks like you're on your own. Clara turned back to the dying man. Not anymore, she whispered. She stood up, pulled the man's arm over her shoulder, and started dragging him toward the old cart tied near the water trough. Her boots slid, her arms ached. But she didn't stop. You're coming with me, she muttered. I don't care who you are. The sheriff called after her, voice flat. You'll regret this. Clara didn't look back. Then how? Regret it warm. The path to the cabin was narrow, buried under snow. The horses pulled slow. Clara had never driven a cart alone before, but she gripped the reins and kept going. The man groaned with every bump. His head lolled to the side. Blood stuck to the hair near his ear. She drove as fast as the snow let her. When the cabin finally came into view through the trees, she nearly cried. It was small, leaning a little to the left, roof patched with old wood, but it was hers now. Part of the marriage deal, if the groom had ever existed. She dragged the man inside, both of them half frozen, got him to the bed, stripped off what clothes she could without hurting him more. The wound on his side was bad, not deep but ugly, dirty, infected. She boiled water, cleaned it with pieces of her own dress, and searched for the bullet. It was still inside. Her hands trembled as she boiled her sewing needle. She whispered a prayer. She hadn't prayed in years. Then she dug. The man screamed. His eyes flew open. He grabbed her wrist with a strong hand. Who are you? He gasped. No one, she whispered. But I'm all you've got. His hand dropped. She pulled out the bullet and dropped it into a metal bowl. It clinked softly. She collapsed to the floor, her hands covered in blood. She didn't even know his name. The next morning, the fire was still burning. Clara sat in the chair beside the bed, her arms wrapped around herself, eyes sore from no sleep. She looked up, She saw his eyes open. "You should have let me die," he said, voice like gravel. She didn't flinch. Too late for that. He looked around. His face was pale, cheeks hollow. "Where are we?" "My cabin." He blinked slowly. "Why? You were bleeding. I still am." She nodded, but not as much. He watched her for a moment, then said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" "No, and I don't care." "You needed help." He smiled. Little, just a corner of his mouth. "Name's Silas." Clara's heart skipped. Silas Mercer. She remembered now. On the train, someone had left behind a torn newspaper. A name on the front page. Silas Mercer, the missing rancher. Heir to one of the richest lands in the West. Disappeared 2 years ago. Rumored dead. Some said he ran from a deal. Others said his own family tried to kill him. She said nothing. Just stood and stoked the fire. He winced when he tried to move. Gasped when he turned on his side. "Don't," she said softly. "You'll tear the stitches." He didn't look at her. Just stared at the ceiling like it held memories too painful to speak out loud. Clara didn't ask anything else. Not yet. She just kept the fire going and wrapped more cloth around his wound. The wind howled outside like wolves. The trees creaked like old bones. Inside, the cabin was still. Just two strangers, a shared silence, and something neither of them could explain. Clara didn't sleep that night. She sat beside the bed, watching the stranger Silas Mercer breathe in short, hard bursts. Every few minutes, his body jerked like he was caught in a nightmare. She changed the cloth on his wound again and again. But it still bled slow. By morning, the storm outside had passed, but the sky was gray, and the trees whispered with cold wind. Clara went outside to chop wood, her hands stiff and red from the cold. She hadn't eaten since the day before, but she didn't feel hungry. Not yet. When she came back inside, Silas was awake again. He was staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. "You should have left me," he said. Clara didn't answer. She set the wood down near the stove and checked the fire. She added another log. Then she looked at him. "You really want to die?" she asked, quiet. Silas didn't speak for a long time. Then he turned his head toward the window. "I didn't care anymore," he said. "About anything." Clara walked to the table. She poured hot water into a cup and stirred in some crushed herbs. She brought it to him. "Drink," she said. He didn't move. She placed the cup in his hands. "Why did you help me?" he asked. Clara looked down at her fingers, cracked from the cold. "Because nobody helped me when I needed it," she said. "And I remember what that felt like." Silas held the cup, but didn't drink. He looked at her now, really looked. "You're not scared of me?" he asked. Clara shook her head. "No, you should be." She leaned forward. "I've known men who smile and lie and call you sweetheart while they break your bones. You're not like them." Silas was quiet. Then he sipped the drink. That night, Clara heard something. A sound outside, soft, like footsteps in snow. She grabbed the shotgun from above the door and stepped outside in her boots, coat tight around her. The moon was low. Everything was still. Then she saw them. Boot tracks, fresh, leading around the side of the cabin near the barn. Then back into the trees. Clara followed them a few steps and stopped. Someone had been watching. She went back inside, closed the door, checked the lock twice. Silas sat up in bed, pale and sweating. "Someone out there?" he asked. "Yes," Clara said. He didn't look surprised. "They'll come," he said. "My brothers, or men they paid. They want the land. My father left everything to me." She watched him carefully. "Why didn't you sign it over?" "Because I knew what they'd do with it. Sell it off. Earn it down. Hurt people just to get more money." Clara's eyes narrowed. And they tried to kill you for that? He nodded. Shot me in the back. I jumped a train. Thought I'd bleed out before I ever made it here. She sat down across from him, shotgun on her lap. Well, she said, you didn't. He smiled faintly. Because of you. That night, he screamed in his sleep. Clara ran to the bed, held his shoulders down. His body thrashed, soaked in sweat. It's not real, she whispered. You're safe. He gasped, chest rising fast. I can't go back. They'll kill me. Clara didn't let go. You're not going back, she said. Not ever. He looked at her like she was a stranger and a miracle at the same time. Why do you care? Because you matter, she said. You didn't ask for this, and I didn't ask to find you. But here we are. His hands stopped shaking. He stared at her dot in that cabin, full of cold air and flickering firelight. Something changed between them. They weren't strangers anymore. Next day, Clara made soup from old carrots and dried beans. She sang softly while she stirred, just a hum from her childhood. Silas listened, resting in the chair now. His arm was still wrapped, shoulder bandaged, but he was sitting up. You sing like someone who's been through fire, he said. Clara didn't turn. I have. Want to tell me? She didn't answer. Just kept humming. Later she went. Outside to gather more wood. The wind had picked up. The footprints near the barn were gone now, buried under new snow. But Clara knew what she'd seen. They weren't alone. Inside. Silas watched from the window. They'll come back, he said when she returned. I know. They'll burn the cabin. Clara placed more logs near the stove. Then we build. Another, she said. He shook his head, half smiling. You're crazy. No, she said. Just tired of running. Silas leaned forward. You're not responsible for me. She walked over, looked him straight in the eyes. Yes, I am. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but didn't. Instead, he reached for her hand. Just barely. I never meant to live, he whispered. But you made me want to. Clara looked away. Her throat ached. I came here to marry a man who never existed, she said. Instead, I found one who might be worth it. He squeezed her fingers gently. That night, they sat by the fire in silence. Clara pulled out a worn scarf from her pocket, her mother's, and started threading it. Between her fingers, Silas watched her, voice soft. What about you? What? About me? Who did you lose? Clara stared into the fire. Then she whispered, my sister. Fever took her. I sold my boots to pay the doctor. He never came. Silas sat still. I've been alone ever since, she added. He leaned forward. Not anymore. Then the sound came. Glass shattered. A bullet tore through the cabin wall. Wood splintered. Clara screamed. Silas grabbed the shotgun from beside the door. Another shot slammed into the doorframe. They found us, he said. Clara stood firm. Face pale, eyes blazing. I'm not running, she said. Silas loaded the gun, breathing hard. Good, then we make our stand. Snow fell heavy through the trees as Clara dropped to the cabin floor, her heart pounding. A second bullet hit the door, blasting splinters into the air. Silas crouched beside her, his wounded arm tight against his chest, shotgun in the other. They looked at each other. This is it, he said. Clara's jaw was tight. How many? Silas crawled to the window, keeping low. He peered through the cracked glass. 3 men, he said. 1 on horseback, 2 on foot. My brother's men? Clara nodded once. Her breath came in quick clouds. Then we hold them off. You ever shoot at a man before? She checked the shells in her shotgun. Only 1. He never came back. Silas gave a small, pained smile. That'll do. Outside, the wind howled. The horses cried out again, nervous. Then Silence. Then a voice. "Silas Mercer," a man yelled. "You're gonna die either way. Just give us what your brother wants." Silas stood behind the door, gun ready. "He'll get nothing from me." The voice replied, angry now. "Then we'll take it by force." Clara's hands gripped her shotgun. Her body shook, not from fear, but rage. All her life, people had taken things from her home, her sister, her hope. Not this time. "I see one," Silas whispered, "coming around the left side." "I've got him," Clara said. She slipped near the back window, aimed slow, breathing steady. A shadow moved through the trees. She waited until she saw the man's coat flap in the wind, then fired. The shotgun roared. The man dropped to the snow with a scream. The forest went still again. Silas moved fast to another window. He fired at a second man hiding behind the barn, forcing him back. "They're scared now," he said. "They didn't expect you." "They never do," Clara said. After a long silent hour, the men pulled back. The tracks in the snow told the story they had run. Clara sat down on the edge of the bed, shotgun still in her lap. Her hands were shaking now, but she tried not to show it. Silas stood near the stove, breath short, skin pale. "That shoulder's bleeding again," she said. "I'm fine. You're not." She got up, helped him back to the chair. He didn't fight her. She tore a clean strip from an old sheet, pressed it to the wound. He winced but didn't complain. "I meant what I said," he told her, voice low. "You're the reason I'm still alive." Clara didn't speak. She just wrapped the cloth tighter. "I didn't want to keep living," he continued. "Not until I saw you kneeling beside me, hands in my blood, eyes on fire." Clara looked down. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I mean it," Silas said. He reached out, touched her wrist gently. She froze. "No one's ever saved me before," he said. "Not like you did." She sat beside him. "And no one's ever stayed for me." That night, they didn't speak much. Clara cooked a little stew from dried rabbit and wild herbs. Silas managed a few bites, though each movement hurt. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the woods groaned under wind and snow. Later, Clara pulled out a faded ribbon and braided it into her hair. Silas noticed, smiled. "You did something with your hair," he said. "It was in my eyes." She said quickly, "It looks good," he said. She looked away, cheeks pink. "Don't say that unless you mean it." "I do," he said. They sat in silence. The fire warmed their faces, but inside they still felt the cold of fear, of things unspoken. Clara leaned forward, staring into the flames. "When I was 14, a man came to our farm," she said suddenly. "He said he had work for my father, promised pay. My father never came back. We heard later he was used, robbed, and left in a ditch." Silas didn't speak. "My mother cried for weeks," she said. "Then she got sick and passed too. Only my sister and I were left." "What happened to her?" he asked softly. "Fever," Clara said. "No money for a doctor. I sold my boots to buy medicine. It didn't work." Silas closed his eyes. Clara's voice dropped. "I buried her myself, behind the barn. Just me and the cold." Silas looked at her. "I'm sorry." She didn't cry. She just stared at the fire. "Ever since then, I've been alone. I figured maybe some man in the West would want a wife, and I wouldn't have to be cold anymore." Silas reached for her hand again. This time, she didn't pull away. The next morning, Silas stood on the porch, weak but upright. He wore one of her father's old coats, too big on him. The wind cut through the trees, but he didn't seem to notice. Clara stepped out with him. "You should still be resting," she said. "I needed air." They looked at the snow-covered woods together, peaceful, For now. They'll come again, Silas said. Next time, maybe more of them. I know, Clara said. But I'm not afraid. He looked at her. Why not? She gave a small smile. Because this time, I'm not standing alone. Silas reached into his coat, pulled something out. A silver ring. Worn, scratched, but clean. It was my mother's, he said. She gave it to me before she passed. Clara stared at it. I don't have land anymore, he said. No money, no house that's safe. But I want to give you this, if you'll take it. Clara blinked. Her throat tightened. Why? She asked. Because you didn't just save me, Silas said. You gave me a reason to live. He held out the ring. I want to stand beside you, he said. Not because I owe you, but because one choose to. Clara didn't speak. She reached out, took the ring, and for the first time in years, she let herself believe in something again. The morning sun pushed through the clouds, soft and golden, lighting up the snow-covered land. The wind had quieted. Smoke rose slowly from the cabin chimney. Inside, Clara sat at the table, sewing a patch on Silas's coat. She worked slow, careful with each stitch. Silas stood near the window, watching the tree line. They'll come soon, he said. Clara nodded. I know. They had seen the signs. Hoof prints in the snow again, more than before. Silas's brother wasn't going to let go. He wanted the land. He wanted Silas gone. And now Clara was in the way. But Clara wasn't afraid anymore. Silas turned to her. We could still run. She looked up. Where? I've got friends in Colorado. Maybe. Arizona. We could disappear. Clara kept stitching. And when they find us there? Silas didn't answer. He knew she was right. We don't run, Clara said. Not this time. Silas walked over and sat across from her. His wound was healing, though it still ached. He held his chest and watched her fingers move. Strong hands. Calm hands. A woman who had been through storms and still stood. He reached across the table and touched her hand. If we make it through, he said, I'll never leave your side again. Clara met his eyes. You better not. They spent the next day preparing. Clara reinforced the windows with boards from the barn. Silas loaded the shotgun, then her father's old rifle. They stacked firewood inside, enough to last a week. They moved food into a back corner and kept water by the stove. At night, they sat by the fire again, shoulders touching. They didn't speak much. Words weren't needed now. They had something stronger than words. Trust. The next morning came. Quiet. Too quiet. Then whose? 6 of them. Clara stood at the window. 3 riders. They've stopped near the creek. Silas stood beside her. One of them's my brother. Clara narrowed her eyes. The one in the gray coat? Silas nodded. Malcolm Mercer. The man looked proud, rich, cold. A snake in boots. He'll try to talk first, Silas said. He always does. Acts like he's better than everyone. A voice called out, sharp and smooth. Silas, you got 5 minutes. Clara cocked the shotgun. He won't be 5. Silas stepped outside with the rifle. Clara stood just inside the doorway, shotgun ready. The snow crunched beneath Malcolm's boots as he walked toward the cabin alone. His coat was clean, silver buttons shining. His face was smug. You look like hell, brother, Malcolm said. You always liked the dirt more than money. Silas didn't smile. You came to steal what ain't yours. Malcolm shrugged. It's not about what's mine. It's about what's fair. You don't even want the land. You're hiding out here like a stray dog. Silas didn't move. I want peace. That's more than you ever wanted. Malcolm's face turned cold. You think this woman's going to save you? You think she'd die for you? Clara stepped outside now, shotgun aimed straight at Malcolm's chest. "No," she said, calm and clear. "But I'll kill for him." Malcolm laughed. "You got grit, miss. Shame you picked the wrong side." "You're on the wrong side of everything," Clara said. Malcolm's eyes hardened. He turned and whistled. Two men rode in fast, guns drawn. Clara and Silas fired. The first man dropped, screaming. The second dove behind a tree, firing back. Bullets tore into the snow, wood, and cabin wall. Clara and Silas dropped behind cover. The gunfire echoed through the hills. Silas fired again, hitting the second man in the leg. He fell. Howling. Malcolm ran behind the wagon. Clara ducked low, heart racing. "He's still out there," she whispered. Silas reloaded. "We end this." Now. They moved around the cabin side by side. The air was thick with gun smoke and cold wind. Clara spotted Malcolm behind the wagon, reloading his pistol. She didn't wait. She stepped out, gun raised. "Drop it!" she yelled. Malcolm turned, shocked. "Clara!" Silas shouted. Too late. Malcolm fired. The shot ripped through the air and missed. Clara pulled her trigger. The shotgun blast knocked Malcolm flat. Snow flew up. Silence. Then. Only the wind. Clara dropped the gun. Her hands were shaking. Silas rushed to her, grabbed her shoulders. "Are you hit?" She shook her head, tears running now. "No, I'm fine." He held her close. His arms were warm around her. She sobbed into his chest, not from fear but from the weight of years falling off her. It was over. Later that evening, they buried Malcolm behind the trees. The snow was quiet again, almost kind. Clara stood at the edge of the grave, eyes steady. "I never wanted this." "I know," Silas said, "but I don't regret it." He nodded. "Neither do I." They went back to the cabin. Silas lit the fire. Clara made coffee from the last bit of beans. They sat together at the table, watching the flames. He looked at her. "We're safe now," Clara smiled. "For now." He reached for her hand again. "You still got that ring?" She pulled it from her pocket. It was cold in her hand, but felt like home. "You still want me to wear it?" she asked. He smiled. "If you'll have me." Clara placed it on her finger. It fit just right. Spring came slow that year. Snow melted from the hills. The creek ran again, and green returned to the land. The cabin stood firm, smoke always rising. Clara planted seeds in the garden. Silas built a new fence. They worked side by side, sun on their backs. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they just stood together, watching the wind in the trees. They didn't need much. They had each other, and no one was ever going to take that away again.